Mr. Campbell, I'm Jessie Smith, and here is my photo ID to prove that I am a student at the MUW. And I am doing a presentation on what I have learned this semester in the leadership class online and what certain things stand out to me in the chapters. Chapter 1, what stood out to me the most was the differences between management and leadership. Management focused more on the company, whereas leadership focused more on the human resources, as in the staffing in the company. As in, on our notes, it says that management is planning and budgeting and keeping an eye on the bottom line. That is the direction of management, whereas leadership is creating vision and strategy and keeping an eye on horizon. Notes it stated that management directs and controls and creates boundaries, but leadership helps the employees grow and reduces the boundaries for them employees. So management seems to make it a little harder or difficult for the employees in the company rather than leadership. Leadership is there. Leadership is more to help the people in the company. In chapter 1 are the top 7 reasons for executive derailment. And that number 1 is acting with an intensive, abrasive, intimidating bullying style, which should not be what a leader or manager needs to do in any situation. Number 2, being cold, aloof, and arrogant. As a leader or a manager, you really do need to be very understanding of your fellow employees that you have hired to do the job that you set them out to do. Number 3, betraying personal trust. That is a big factor in companies today, considering, for example, like whistleblowers. You know, they're trying to make sure that the company is as honest as it can be and trying to do what's right ethically. Number 4, being overly ambitious, self-centered, thinking of next job, playing politics. Yes, you should be worried about the fellow employees in your company rather than yourself, because that is a long-term goal. That should be a long-term goal for employees, managers, top managers, and supervisors, everybody to be on the same page to set out the vision of the company. Number 5, having specific performance problems with the business. As in that, there's a lot of many other things that you could do to fix that, but with motivation, that can go really far. Number 6, over managing, being unable to delegate or build a team. I feel that a team or a team leader is the most important and most productive way to run a company to be successful. And number 7, being unable to select good subordinates. In hiring, there are many steps to follow to pick the best employees. And if you feel that you do not have the means or the right questions to ask in an interview for the right employee, you should do your research ahead of time so you can hire the employees that are needed. Chapter 2 is stress the characteristics of a leader and what they should have and possibly what they look like, but necessarily that does not mean that they will be a good leader. But the definition of traits is distinguishing personal characteristics of a leader such as intelligence, honesty, self-confidence, and appearance. All of those are true except for appearance. Sometimes it depends on what situation you're in. Sometimes you can tell a person's successful. Sometimes, you don't really know because everybody's different. But in the great man approach, a leadership perspective is sought to identify the inherited traits leaders possess that distinguish them from people who are not leaders. Personal characteristics consist of energy, passion, and physical stamina. Yes, and the way you act, that is a part of the characteristics, can distinguish you from a great leader from a mediocre leader. And later on in chapter 2, it talks more about the behaviors of leaders and some theories along the way that could support the theories of the characteristics and behavior and appearances of a good leader. And earlier when I stated appearance does not distinguish someone's intellect. It only shows, the first look on a person, the first thought, the first anything, but that does not distinguish, their intelligence by any means. Now, if they want to look good for an interview or at the job they are given, which needs to have that appearance upheld, then okay. But other than that, no. Chapter 4, it talks about a leader as an individual. It was explaining a roundabouts of how leaders need to lead from their perspective in life, and how if they're extrovert or introvert, and how they lead is based on their personality and the way they are. 5, it talked about the mental state of a leader's mind and all the emotions and how to control each emotion in any situation that is given. And then number 6, it just really talked about ethical and unethical, just what is right and what is wrong, moral leadership, and what is right and wrong to you may not be right or wrong to the company. It says, for examples, they have principles of stewardship and different types of leadership, such as, servant leadership and everything. And then this is the chapter where they talk about whistleblowing, where the employee disclosure of illegal, immoral, or unethical practices is going on in the organization. So if you as an individual feel that your company is not doing something right or something ethical, or that you believe is unethical, you need to report it. And it talks about critical thinking and uncritical thinking, and then it just gives different graphs and diagrams on the behaviors and such like that. And then it talks about ways to influence the leader as an employee. Now, instead of the leader influencing the employees, it's the employees influence the leaders. So they give you the maturity continuum diagram, and then examples on how to influence the leader, and then feedback, effective feedback, and leadership coaching. Chapter 8, it concentrates on motivation, with motivating the employees really, and the awards that employees should get for doing a good job. And then they talk about different theories like hierarchy of needs theory, and then they have the Hertzberg's 2-factor theory, acquired needs theory, and reinforcement theory. A lot of everything to just and expectancy theory. Expectancy is when you do a good job, then expecting the reward of doing that good job. So time was all about communication and messages and channels, anything to deal with communication, whether it was to the leaders, to the employees, to outside the company, inside the company. And chapter 10 was my favorite, my personal favorite, talking about the teams and the differences between groups and teams that I really didn't think had a lot of differences, but they actually did. And chapter 11, that was another one of my favorites, about diversity. And I learned in management too that diversity is being a big thing in companies, so that they can attract more customers and more employees for that matter, so they can be accepted, for them and who they are.